I've spent years stewing over the bitter memories, replaying every slight, every preferential glance Dad threw toward that cousin of ours. I was the one left scrabbling for scraps of affection, while my brothers and I learned early on that our worth was measured in what we could tolerate. I never imagined that uncovering his darkest secret would turn my world upside down and set me on a course for retribution that would leave no room for forgiveness. I grew up in a house where the echoes of laughter and love were unevenly distributed. Dad's praise was a scarce commodity reserved exclusively for my cousin Clara. From the moment I was old enough to remember, her presence overshadowed mine, her every achievement magnified, while my efforts were dismissed as inconsequential. I recall how he'd casually drop hints about her special status, describing her as his pride and joy. The subtle insinuations that I wasn't worthy of the same attention cut deep. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I started piecing together the truth, that Dad had a secret he'd guarded with zeal, one that would explain decades of favoritism. The shock of learning that Clara was not just the favored child, but, in fact, his secret love child, hit me like a freight train. It wasn't that the revelation completely redefined our family's past, but it did offer a context that had long eluded me. I remember the day I found the hidden envelope stashed away in a drawer behind Dad's old leather wallet. Inside was a bank statement and a letter in his careful handwriting detailing a secret college fund that he had been contributing to for years. The funds were earmarked exclusively for Clara's future, a future that I, along with my brothers, had been systematically excluded from, no matter how much we struggled or hoped for our own chance at success. That discovery unraveled my understanding of everything. Every birthday party where Clara received an extravagant gift, every college acceptance letter that came with a note of approval from Dad, now all seemed part of a sinister design. The realization was as crushing as it was infuriating. I had been living in a second-class reality, constantly reminded of my inferiority. I wasn't the problem, it was the way I was treated. I tried to confront Dad about it, though my voice shook with a mix of anger and sorrow as I demanded explanations. His reaction was cold and calculated. He dismissed my questions with an air of paternal indifference, insisting that I was overreacting and that I needed to focus on my own life. But the seed of betrayal had been planted deep within me, and over the years, it grew into a festering wound that wouldn't heal. Each time I saw Clara laughing at a family gathering or hearing the hushed tones in which Dad spoke of her, I felt the sting of injustice all over again. For years, I battled my own feelings of inadequacy and rage in silence. I was smart enough to know that if I let these emotions drive me, they might destroy everything I held dear. But it wasn't long before the scales of revenge began to tip. I wasn't going to simply suffer in silence while Dad's double life continued unchallenged. I began to meticulously gather every scrap of evidence I could find, old letters, bank statements, and even digital records that confirmed the existence of that hidden college fund. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that I was dealing with a man who had built his life on deceit. It was not an impulsive decision that led me to exact revenge. Instead, it was the culmination of years of meticulous planning. I decided that if I was to challenge him, I needed to expose the truth in a way that would dismantle his carefully constructed facade. The revelation had to be public and undeniable, leaving him no space to argue or hide behind legal technicalities. I wasn't seeking his forgiveness, I was demanding accountability, and I was going to make sure that every person who had been deceived by his actions knew the truth. I began by approaching some of our older relatives, those who had always harbored quiet suspicions about Dad's unwavering devotion to Clara. Their initial reluctance to speak was understandable, given the years of ingrained family dynamics, but once they were confronted with the evidence I had amassed, the dam of their silence broke. I held meetings in the dead of night, away from prying eyes, sharing documents and testimonies that confirmed what I had long suspected. The more people who knew, the more the balance of power shifted. I wasn't alone anymore. The plan for my revenge took shape with chilling clarity. I decided that the most satisfying blow would be to leverage Dad's own network, his connections, his influence, and the respect he'd cultivated over the years to publicly unmask his hypocrisy. I hired a discreet team of legal experts and financial auditors who specialized in uncovering hidden assets. Their work revealed the full extent of the secret college fund, its impressive growth over the years, and the fact that it was meant solely for Clara, while my brothers and I had been left to fend for ourselves. I made copies of every document, every transaction record, and compiled a dossier that was as airtight as it was damning. The moment of reckoning arrived at a family reunion that Dad had so meticulously planned. It was an event he considered a testament to his legacy, a gathering where his name was synonymous with generosity and success. But I had turned that very occasion into a stage for his downfall. With all eyes on me, I calmly walked up to the makeshift podium in the family's grand living room, holding the dossier in my trembling hands. I began to recount the years of neglect and betrayal, my voice steady as I outlined each instance of favoritism and deceit. I made sure to mention the college fund, the hidden envelope, and every document that supported my claims. As I spoke, the room filled with a deafening silence, a mix of shock, disbelief, and the slow-burning anger of those who had been complicit in maintaining Dad's facade. Clara's face turned ashen, and even my brothers looked as though they were caught between vindication and sorrow. But there was no going back. I had laid out the truth for everyone to see, and there was no escaping it. The fallout was swift and merciless. The public humiliation Dad endured that day was more than he had ever imagined, and it wasn't long before the media caught wind of the scandal. Headlines splashed his name alongside revelations of the secret college fund, and every interview became an opportunity for me to detail how a father's love can be manipulated into a weapon against his own children. I made sure to remain anonymous in the public eye, channeling my energy solely into the pursuit of justice. In the weeks that followed, I watched as Dad's world crumbled. His reputation was shattered, and he was forced to face legal consequences for his misappropriation of funds and breach of fiduciary duty. The courts ruled in favor of my brothers and me, ensuring that the hidden assets would be redistributed fairly, a small measure of recompense for the years of neglect we had endured. Clara, it turned out, was just as much a victim of her father's machinations as the rest of us, but her complicity in his deception made forgiveness impossible. I never forgave her. Betrayal, once committed, cannot be undone. Every step of my revenge was calculated to dismantle the illusion of a perfect family, and every moment of it felt like reclaiming a piece of the dignity that had been stolen from me. I recall the look in Dad's eyes when the judge pronounced the verdict, a mix of disbelief, resignation, and a dawning realization that his life was now a testament to his own cruelty. I could see that he understood at last that the consequences of his actions were inescapable. Even now, as I write this account, the embers of that long-held resentment still glow within me. I have no desire to relive the pain of the past, yet I am compelled to remind anyone who might find themselves in a similar situation that the scars of betrayal do not simply vanish with time. They fester until confronted, and when you finally muster the courage to do so, the resulting catharsis is both bitter and, in its own way, strangely liberating. My journey to reclaim my self-worth wasn't an easy one. I had to navigate a labyrinth of family secrets, lies, and the ever-present burden of feeling undeserving of love and success. I spent countless nights questioning whether the hard-won victory was truly worth the price, whether exposing the truth would bring me peace or simply replace old wounds with new ones. But in the end, I chose to stand up for myself, to force the world to acknowledge the truth of my existence, and to finally shatter the chains of a legacy built on deceit. I've learned that sometimes the most excruciating battles are fought within the confines of our own hearts. The betrayal I endured was not just the result of one man's selfish actions, but also a reflection of a system that often rewards manipulation over honesty. I refuse to be complicit any longer, and that decision has defined the rest of my life. I took back control in a way that left no ambiguity. My pain was real, and so was my capacity for decisive, unyielding action. It might sound harsh to some, but the world rarely affords second chances to those who have been wronged. In the aftermath of my public confrontation, I felt a strange sense of liberation. I was no longer the silent sufferer, the overlooked child forced to accept a second-tier existence. I had become an agent of my own destiny, someone who had faced the darkest aspects of familial betrayal and emerged with the unshakable conviction that no one, not even a father, has the right to dictate your worth. Looking back, I realized that my revenge wasn't born out of a desire for petty retribution, but from a deeper need to assert my own identity. I wasn't interested in a dramatic romance of forgiveness and redemption. This was about exposing the raw, unvarnished truth and demanding accountability. I can still hear Dad's feeble protests in my mind, his weak attempts to justify his actions even as the evidence stacked against him. And while I understand that forgiveness might be the road to healing for some, I simply couldn't allow myself to let go. Some betrayals leave a scar too deep to ever mend, and I've learned that sometimes the only way to reclaim your power is to make sure the person who wronged you is forced to live with the consequences. Now, years later, as I watch my brothers finally begin to thrive in ways we never could under Dad's oppressive shadow, I see that my quest for justice was not in vain. The wounds of the past still ache, but they no longer define me. I've carved out a new narrative, one where I am the author of my own fate. Every victory, every moment of self-respect regained is a reminder that even in the midst of betrayal, there lies an opportunity to rewrite your story. For anyone reading this, trapped in a cycle of familial neglect or betrayal, know that you are not powerless. The path to reclaiming your dignity is fraught with challenges, and the road may be long and lonesome. But in standing up, in demanding the truth be told, you pave the way not only for your own liberation, but for the eventual unraveling of the web of lies that holds you captive. I never expected my story to serve as a rallying cry, yet here I am, urging you to take that first step toward a future defined not by the scars of your past, but by the strength you summon in its wake. I leave this account as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The betrayal I experienced reshaped my life in ways I never thought possible, driving me to a point where forgiveness was an alien concept. In the end, the satisfaction of knowing that justice was served, that Dad's carefully constructed facade crumbled to reveal the raw truth, is something I can carry with me as a beacon of hope. It's a reminder that no matter how deeply you're wounded, you have the power to fight back, to expose the lies, and to rebuild your life on your own terms. This isn't just a story about family secrets or hidden college funds. It's a story about reclaiming control over a destiny that was hijacked by deceit. It's about facing the demons of the past, no matter how painful, and emerging stronger because of them. I stand here today, not as the forgotten child, but as someone who has taken back every piece of the identity that was once stolen from me. And while I know that the journey is far from over, I can finally say that I am free from the chains of my father's legacy, free to define my own worth, free to live a life unburdened by the shadows of betrayal. So, if you ever find yourself questioning whether the fight is worth it, remember this: every act of betrayal leaves behind a residue of truth that can never be erased. And when you dare to expose that truth, even at the cost of everything you thought you knew, you not only reclaim your dignity, you ignite a spark that can set the world ablaze with the promise of justice. I made my choice, and while forgiveness was never an option, revenge, crafted with unwavering determination and an unyielding demand for accountability, became the catalyst for my rebirth. I hope that my story serves as both a warning and an inspiration. Never let anyone treat you like a second-class citizen, and never, ever allow betrayal to go unanswered. Every day I wake up with the memory of that fateful family reunion, a constant reminder of the moment I reclaimed my power. And though the scars of betrayal will forever mark my heart, I wear them as badges of honor, proof that even in the midst of darkness, the light of truth can blaze fiercely enough to ignite a revolution in your own soul.